Welcome. You're listening to the Rotten River Pursuits podcast. Join our epic pro staff around the Sonic Campfire for stories and adventures from our eastern mountains to the Chesapeake Salt. Let our highs and lows inspire you to take to the outdoors.
All right, welcome back again, guys, here at the Sonic Campfire, the home of all things epic in the outdoors. We have an incredible show lined up for you guys tonight. Just wait till you hear about this.
Yeah, buddy.
But before we get into it too deep, let's go around the table here, see who we've got. I'm Ryan.
I'm Dave.
I'm Steve.
I'm Will. And I'm Uncle Buck.
Is that right? I think we got a special guest on the phone.
Yeah, I'm Larry Dahlberg, and I'm filling in for Uncle Catfish.
Hey, all right. Perfect. We're so happy to have you, Larry. For the very few people on this planet who do not know who you are, I have a brief description of some of your accomplishments. You're a distinguished fisherman with fly rod and conventional tackle. You've been an innovator with hard baits, soft baits, and rod development. You've successfully landed just about every conceivable fish on the planet, all around the world. You are also in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. You are also in the IGFA Fishing Hall of Fame, and you won the Conservation Award from the IGFA a couple years ago. We're so excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Did we leave anything out from your your very long, distinguished career in the fishing industry?
I don't know. I think the first thing that I was known for, my name anyhow, was a fly that I developed when I was in my mid to late teens called the Dahlberg diver.
Uh-huh.
And I used to guide fly fishermen, and because they wouldn't come back without you, you know.
Well, Larry, I'll be honest with you. I'd never put two and two together there and realized that that's where the Dahlberg diver came from. When everybody was telling me that we were actually going to get a chance to speak with you tonight, so I'm really impressed by that. I mean that.
You didn't put that together. Like, my name is Larry Dahlberg.
Well,
diver.
What's wrong with you?
I understand. Sometimes it's hard to kind of put stuff together.
Well, Larry, if we could just take a second, maybe we'll cut this out of the episode. I mean, I'm not that quick, all right?
We're not cutting that out.
But for me, no, and I wouldn't expect you to. But for me, Larry, I mean, honestly, I've said and I've heard Dahlberg diver. Like, I don't say that. It's like saying Kleenex and then meeting
Mr.
Howard Kleenex.
Well, okay, I get it. I can think of some other ones like that too, but I won't say what they are.
Take it easy, Sneezy.
When you're talking about fishing and people that have helped shape the fishing world in the last 20, 30, 40 years, there's several names that come to mind. Big TV stars, Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston, those type of guys. And you can't get too far down the list without Larry Dahlberg's name popping up. And whether it's saltwater fishing, freshwater fishing, fly fishing, rod development, lure development, you name it. Like, you're everywhere in the fishing world, Larry. Like, there's nothing that your reach hasn't touched.
Reached. So you're.
Well, I'm pretty old,
No.
For a long time.
But it's incredible when you look. We're talking about having you on the show and kind of looking close into your fishing career, and you've done it all essentially. You've done it all.
Yeah.
And been everywhere. Like
Is 83 different countries we've heard, correct, Larry?
I think it was 87 that I've been through, but I haven't fished in every one of them.
Okay.
Just some of them you just pass through on the way to going someplace else. But
I've
traveled
fish,
a lot.
Right?
Traveling's overrated, but especially these days. After 9/11, it got difficult.
Like, can you take us back to your childhood and what got you started, into this what seems to be essentially a lifetime of fishing and hardcore fishing?
Well, I think I'm not exactly sure. My dad and my grandfather were both fishermen. My grandfather on my mother's side, that is, and my father, of course, on this side. And my grandfather fished with live bait. My dad fished with lures, and they'd bring fish home. And I guess I first experienced some ice fishing. I was maybe 4 years old, and I remember the first fish I caught. It was
no kidding.
Existential experience. And I was just sort of hooked on it. And so as a little kid, my grandpa would bring me along because it allowed him to kill twice as many fish legally.
I've been there. I was dragged along with a grandpa, too, for that.
Yeah, and my dad, just to keep me out of his hair and stuff, and just because, he thought it was okay, he rigged me up with an old Fluger scale cast, 54-pound nylon line, and about a 5-foot, I think it was made out of steel, Betts fishing rod. Had a couple of spoons, cheap little spoons, and I would go down to the local reservoir, which was maybe 2 blocks from my house. And at age 5, 6, I'd take my bike down there every morning, and I'd fish and come home at noon if I had a backlash. And
nice.
I was just hooked. My dad wouldn't let me go with him. He fished a river that had a lot of overhanging trees and snags and logs and stuff where the fish were located. That anyone that wasn't a good caster was a liability, and so he wouldn't let me come along until I could. He had a line in the backyard. He had stand here, and I'd have to cast totally right over my top of my head with a swolled bait caster under the swing set into a box.
Wow!
8 out of 10 times, and the summer between 6 and 7 years of age, I could do that, and my mom made him say, "Hey, he's been practicing, and he could do it. You promised."
It's time.
You were doing that at 6 or 7, you said?
Yeah, between the ages of 6 and 7, as I was going on 7 as a first grade.
That's awesome. Like my youngest daughter is 9 now. I think we started around 7. We're playing in the yard and we're tying like little socket weights and stuff on the end of the line so she could cast. And we're putting hula hoops in the yard and things like that for her to try to hit. But
good idea.
She wasn't any good at it at that age. I mean, at 9 now she can maybe hit it. 4 out of 10 times. So.
She's no Larry Dahlberg.
Good on you, Larry.
Yeah.
It's like anything else. It's practice and practice and practice. And anyway, I was able to do it, and then he took me along, and that's when I learned how to row a boat. The only time I got to fish was when we were anchored, and I could barely see over the gunnels. And he just pull on the right oar, pull again. Okay, that's good. Push on the left oar. Now pull on the right oar, push on the left oar. Good. Pull on both oars. Do it again. As he'd go down the bank and cast it at real specific targets. But it's a lesson in life for anything that you want to do. You have to really want to do it badly. And for me, I wanted to be able to fish every day, and I wanted to catch one every cast if I could, and I didn't want. I was just obsessed, sort of. And I got an opportunity to be a guide when I was 11 years old. Somebody died, and they needed a guide, and I was like a feral child. By the time I was 9, my dad had put me in the river and let me float for 2 days, 3 days.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you just huck finned.
Eating brook trout on a stick. I didn't have to take a bath or brush my teeth or eat vegetables.
That's all right.
And you said that was when you were 9, right?
8, 9, 10, 11, when I was guiding.
Okay,
I started guiding at 11.
I have a 9 and a 12-year-old, so if I just shove them off down the river. All right, I'm taking notes here, Larry, so just bear with me.
They put you in jail for that.
Probably.
Well, I mean, we don't have to tell anybody, Larry.
Tiger Woods.
My dad just passed away. In fact, this week, 3 days ago, he passed away. He was 92 years old.
I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear that.
We had a lot of wonderful time together. The last few years, he's had vascular dementia, and he's kind of in and out. But I took him on the river about three years ago, where we grew up and used to fish, and he couldn't remember these places where he'd caught his biggest muskie or this or that. And came to a bank where I'd caught my first muskie when I was 9. And it's 300 yards long. And I said, "Dad, do you remember this place?" And he looked for a few seconds, and he pointed exactly to the spot.
Wow.
And that was kind of heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Was that muskie as big as you were?
It was, I think, 43 inches, and I think I got second place in the boys' life fishing contest.
Wow.
And won Shakespeare. No, it was a Shakespeare Wonder Rod. I'll never forget. It got stolen by somebody. It's another story. But yeah, I started just fishing. I was a fishaholic since I was a little kid, but I never planned to really be involved. I was like a knuckleball, headed toward home plate, taking the path of least resistance, trying not to hit anybody before I got to the catcher. And I've just been real curious about things. I don't believe in voodoo, and so I tried to see learn as many mechanical skills and learn them well as I could with all the different types of tackle. And then look at things strategically from a standpoint of what the environmental options are in a given place. And then try to, develop as many tactical things as you can in terms of things that work in given places. And I sort of have just gone along in that premise. Mainly looking at what the environment, what are the choices that a fish might have in the environment, and then figuring out how you might approach that.
Yeah, so you're looking at a lot of these things from the perspective of the fish, like trying to get into the mind of the fish and understand what he might be thinking, like you said, like the options. I mean, that's the way that I've always grown up, hunting, fishing, whatever you're after. If you're looking for a bug, you've got to be the bug. Yep, and not to make it about me for a second, but
go ahead, bud.
I've grown up since I was 5 or 6 years old, like trout fishing in local streams and creeks. But just this year, I actually started getting into bass fishing. These guys that are now sitting around the table with me and Uncle Catfish, who you're filling in for tonight, they got me into this bass fishing thing. For me, it's been an obsession with whitetails and archery hunting, and I'm trying to actually apply some of those tactics to fishing for bass, and it seems to sort of be clicking. There's a lot of similarities there if you take it from the perspective of, the game target.
Mm-hmm. The way I look at it, I break it into three things: tactics, mechanics, strategy. The mechanics are the physical things you can control in fishing. It'd be running your boat, casting your lure, tying your knots, fighting a fish, all those things. The strategic side is what I'd mentioned earlier, and that is defining environmental options. The tactical side is our little, like, what lure do I use in 15 feet of water for a fish that's sort of negative or neutral? What's the best way to do this or that? So your whole picture is a combination. The strategy is kind of a combination of the tactics, mechanics, and the environment, and figuring out the most efficient way to rub the silver off the lottery card, so to speak. And that's kind of how I look at it. Most people are too involved in voodoo and get way too involved in the little tactical details. Is there underarm hair of a rare orangutan with 3 wraps of a green squirrel?
That's exactly what I used last night.
Orangutan.
Well, that's why you only caught 2 bass last night.
That's right.
Larry, how long did it take you to come up with that sort of formula? I guess was that something you right away, or was that 10, 20 years into it?
That's a good question. As I said, my grandpa fished with live bait. We'd anchor in one place, put on a night crawler or a frog or a minnow or something, and put it in front of where there was a fish. Fishing, we fished sturgeon. It was in big, large areas, but fishing for other species of fish, you can pretty well tune in where they are. And I learned that, you put a live bait right in front of them, they bite, bam, like that. With lures, the first one might bite, depending what the deal is, but you can fish through a whole lot of them with lures, and they don't always want to. Doesn't mean they're not there. And I don't believe in voodoo at all, like zero, never have. I doubt everything. I have zero faith, other than the sun's going to come up and, the way the universe seems to operate. But so I've got to see it over and over, and there's a lot of variables in this game, so it's really easy to get misled.
Sure. How would you, when you're breaking these things down? So when you come up with a new lure, or you're working on, some type of new technique, how long does that typically take you to know, or at what point do you know, hey, this is legitimate, or this is, I know if I get a new lure in my tackle box and I want to try it out, if it doesn't work within the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm chucking it. This is no good.
You're going back to the Whopper Plopper.
I'm going back to the Whopper Plopper, because I know it works. But at what point do you say, when do you give up? When do you know that I got something here?
Well, you have to have a control in any test or experiment. So either you start trying new things when you're on a bunch of fish and they're biting, and you find out what they won't bite. That's one way to really learn things. But what I know where a bunch of guys live. I've got addresses and names and phone numbers, and I go knock on their door and show them something, and I see how they react. Over a period of time, and I have to see it. If I can see the fish ahead of time, then it's real easy. You read them, see how they react, and I go, if I don't have something, I can go make it. And it's just a combination of observations that a guy makes over a lifetime of little things that worked at some point that worked because you saw it happen time after time after time, and nothing else really seemed to work, and then you go, and it works. And, there's sort of a list of things. It comes down to, you break it into two different food forms. You've got bugs, and it's saltwater, the crustaceans, and the things that, can't swim fast, or if heavy currents involved, they can't swim against it. And then you get fish that eat each other. And the two most important triggering elements of those two families are 180 from each other. One's about a drag-free drift, dead float, as though it's not connected to the line, with maybe a desperate twitch here and there. The other is reacting to the presence of the predator, like, oh shit, I'm going to get eaten, and try to get away.
Sure.
And those are the two, outsides of the diagram, kind of. You have fish that live on bugs, fish that live on each other, and they have great memories. And most of them grew up on bugs, so it's kind of like a Venn diagram. Sometimes fish that are usually eating each other, like a big lake trout. I've seen 40-pound lake trout eating midges like a whale would eat krill. By the same token, you see a brown trout that grew up on bugs. He gets to be 8-10 pounds. He starts eating his buddies.
Yeah.
See, I think I like the way that this is going now. I've been fishing more, under this mentality of, fish with what I know works. But the way that you've done it, Larry, is you've taken more of a scientific approach.
If there's one thing that works, there's also 10 other things that work.
Right. So
that are variations of it, and you go back to Buck Perry. There's a lot of guys that have written things that really make a lot of sense, and it usually, often doesn't quite get understood as the way that they meant it or whatever. But, fish are fish, and there's certain basic things that are true. You can't catch a fish that knows you're after it. That's one of the basic rules of angling, and every effort you make after that, once you've been busted, will make it harder for you to catch him next time if they suck.
Tell that to the peacocks.
Yeah.
They'll hit anything. They just get nuts.
Yeah, we were peacock bass fishing last week in Miami.
For the first time.
First time, and we had a blast.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple strikes.
Yeah, a lot of those are, you've got a fish in a barrel situation there where the forage base has been kind of chewed up. But peacocks is a good example. The places in Brazil, I don't know if you fish Brazil or Venezuela or
no, we're just the PA guys, and we got lucky that we found our way south, last week. So, but most of it our fishing's out of PA.
If you follow the peacock wars, there are people that are always battling to find new water and this water and that water because last year's or the years before, whatever, they just, it's fished out. Well, it's all catch and release pretty much in the camps and anybody sport fishing, and certainly there are commercial efforts going on. But the thing is, they all throw the same lures all the time. What I found is I go to those areas and throw stuff that is different. And the places that work great are still really, really good. It's just they don't bite on wood choppers like they used to.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
We fish with 15 lures, let's say, and in that condition. They're fishing with, one or two or three at the most. They learn, fish learn.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to get ripped out of my restaurant every time I bit into a cheesesteak, I wouldn't eat cheesesteaks
by
next
your
week.
mouth.
Probably not.
But by next week, I'd be like, man, I'm not having a
No
cheesesteak.
cheesesteaks.
It's with fish. What's interesting, I've held them in captivity in large tanks and so on, and with let's take a largemouth bass. In 3 days, if conditions are nice in the tank and you're not shocking them, you can put a spinner bait or a minnow bait with a lot of flash, and let's say size, bam, they'll hit it every time the first time through. It might be a week or 2 or even 3 weeks before they'll bite it again, unless you starve them. You take something like a plastic worm that is either making contact with the bottom and just staying in one spot, so it's in their zone of awareness. They have to deal with it. They see it and they know it's there. But it's non-threatening. But it hasn't got a lot of calling power or tracking power. But it's got, that type of lure always has a lot of triggering power. And sometimes it'll take 30 seconds, sometimes 3 or 4 minutes, and they finally come over, swim over there, kind of cock sideways a little bit, tip down, go and slurp it up, and they make that same mistake day after day after day.
Really?
And they do the same thing with a slow-falling object. It has to be, Bill Benkelman described it as a floating, sinking action. It's just a little bit below or heavier than neutral buoyancy. Slow sink, and then a yo-yo up, and then back down, yo-yo up, back down. Very similar to the way a mayfly behaves as it's attempting to emerge. And that's another trigger. If it falls within a certain cubic space, basically the cubic space that a fish can inhale when he expels water through his lungs, gets into that space, bam, they eat it, and they don't even know they did it. And it's true of all the fish in the bass family.
So,
fish family.
From a bass standpoint, would you say that they're less likely to, I guess, learn certain baits than maybe
things that they look at how can I put it? All fish begin sampling the minute that they're able to eat anything, and they'll see a piece of plankton or a little insect or a larvae of some kind. Maybe it's another small, tiny little fish. They suck it in. If it's good, they do it again and again. It goes in as a plus. Throw a pencil eraser, a little piece of gum, or a booger in the water and to a group of minnows, and they'll hit it every time. If it's inedible, you'll see them sample it once, maybe twice, and then boom, they won't even react to it after that. It goes in as a plus or a minus. And you get food forms that have similar profile in terms of the way they move or the way that they look. Or maybe even in some cases sound. A fish is sampled it successfully so many times it gets within a range, especially an insect-like non-threatening food form, and they just go,
yep,
and they just suck it in. God taps them on the shoulder, says, "Pal, this is a free meal. Take a deep breath or you're going to starve."
Yeah.
We're not even a half hour in, and my mind has exploded like 12 times.
Blown.
Like, it makes sense.
It sure does.
And things that I've chalked up as, well, I'm only going to throw what I know, or these bass are they're overfished in this area, or the water temperature's just not right. I got to fish deep. Like everything you're saying, it makes sense.
It's all clicking for you.
Yeah, I'm going to need you to turn this podcast off. Don't let anybody else hear it.
Yeah, this is.
And me and Larry are going to have a nice conversation for another 45 minutes to an hour.
So, come on, Ryan.
All right, I'll share his knowledge.
Well, Larry, that's one thing I've always found amazing with you on your shows or the articles or just the forum you created for your TV show. You've always been very open with any of your knowledge. You're always willing to share and willing to teach others, and I commend you for that. And you've helped so many in the sport of fishing become better. So it's just amazing.
Well, I'm happy to do that. Just don't fish right on top of me.
There's a little bit of space between us from Pennsylvania, so we're good.
Yeah, we do got some.
My road rules are: if you're close enough for me to nail you with a lure, it's okay for me to do so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you've got a long reach with the lure. I would imagine, right?
You can catch, like the Whopper Plopper in particular. That's one of the biggest things that I saw was that you can whip that thing forever.
Forget about it. It goes.
And and we're using spinning tackle. Could you imagine, a guy like Larry that's good with casting tackle? it's gone. That's a mile. So
It can spool a bass real easily.
Wow. So Ryan kind of hit on it a little bit, but the lakes that we fish up here, public lakes, are extremely pressured. So there's, and they're bass and catfish essentially, but primarily bass, largemouth bass. And they're extremely pressured, and there's boats, canoes, kayaks, on these lakes all day long, and people throwing, who knows what. Can you give us some advice for how to approach these public waters that are just loaded with people fishing them?
Well, it depends on the people, and depends on a lot of different things, but generally. Yeah, what's happened around here in like I got a lot of places is the bass tournament thing has gotten real popular, and it does a bunch of things. The most important thing it could do is grow the body of knowledge, and it doesn't do that because of a bunch of reasons that we can talk about later because it's a very interesting discussion, I think. But essentially, if we had 10 lakes and 10 anglers, non-tournament situation, one guy'd go here, two guys would go there, nobody'd go here, one guy here, and so it's minimum amount of pressure with a given number of anglers. In a tournament situation, you get all 10 guys on this lake, 10 guys there, 10 guys here, and so you put the maximum amount of pressure with a minimum number of anglers. And as anglers get better, and then also are watching each other, because a lot of anglers are sort of like muskies. They like to follow, and you get your community spots that everybody knows, and the fish get holes stuck in them. They get used to the lures and so on, and I think what's evolved in a lot of water is guys have to fish way slower. You fish with smaller stuff, non-threatening. You need a much better grip on your electronics and so on, because you got to fish slow and you got to know they're there. You can't, you can't catch a fish that doesn't exist.
Sure.
And the zone of awareness of a fish is of a given size, and anyway, you wind up fishing real slow with real small stuff, and that's what it's going to take. And you just have to get cagey as an angler. If you're not involved in the tournament business, you want to go catch them, use live bait, and that's your best reality check.
Do you think the slow and
you catch them?
Does slow and small work because nobody else is in a tournament
it goes back
situation?
to why they bite why they'll bite a dark-colored plastic worm and make that mistake over and over again. It's hard for them to recognize what's wrong with it. It's a small, non-threatening, bug-like thing. But the thing is, it's got to be really close to them, moving really, really slow, and it's the crummiest way in the world to cover water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus, it isn't that much fun.
It's painful.
It is painful. It's slow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is good.
It's great.
This is good. This is good stuff. Like
I've had fish. I had the guy I used to fish with. This guy who was a first ad director for Bassmaster magazine, named Spencer Longshore III. One time I showed him how to catch the same fish. I can't remember. It was 5 or 6 times in one day.
What?
You just had to start out with the right thing and end up with the right thing.
Wow.
And you just to keep fooling them, and had to go from start with something that had a lot of attracting power, and then go to something that had pure triggering power, which wound up being live bait on a bare hook. But it's easy. It just depends on the fish what it is to take to catch them.
Sure.
And sometimes even water that don't get touched, they don't like to bite.
We had a situation, a couple guys, they'll throw artificial all day long, unsuccessful or not. And like down in Florida, we were fishing mostly with minnows, and just they were just destroying every pretty much every minnow that you tossed in.
Yeah.
Sean Holsinger is our fly guy. He's a fly fisherman guide, and I mean he was working really hard.
He's tied many a Dahlberg diver, and he knew where the name came from.
Yeah, he definitely does. Yeah, I would say so. To have him along and Uncle Catfish, who's whipping every top water that he possibly had, that he could take on the plane legally, And, you know, to have those guys down there, and Stevie and I were path of least resistance.
Oh, we're using live bait.
You give us what works, and we're going to do it.
I'm not arguing with you. Tell me what works. We're throwing it.
So, there's something to be said, you know, starting out with something and working your way through until you get it.
Well, you make the observations and then deconstruct it. You know, kill your live bait, see if they'll still bite it. See how you have to move it after it's dead to get them to bite it.
Yeah,
that's a hint.
Yeah, that was Will was breaking that down in peacock bass country last week. You know, the shiners were dying pretty quick in some cases. You know, within a minute of getting in the lake, and you know he was.
Well, that was mostly because Will just kept yelling, "Look, I got one! Look, I got one!"
I couldn't help that. I was the chosen one, Larry.
Yeah,
I kept hammering big peacocks.
Yeah. Let's keep bringing that up as often as we can.
I just want to throw that at Stevie's face.
Maybe we could mention that on the next 14 podcasts.
But, you know, did you guys hear about my peacock bass? My 6-pounder?
That's exactly why when you're fishing with live bait, on a windy day, it's a lot easier. Because when your minnow dies, that wind helps. You
got more action.
Pulls the line
definitely,
around, yeah.
Definitely. I've always had more success when there's not a huge windy day, but enough to keep some action on top of the water, and therefore it translates down with more action on your bait.
Well, I like my live bait to be as alive as it can be. One good live, it depends on what you're fishing for, but one first stringer is worth 10 B-teamers.
Oh, I agree with you, but you know,
No
on a hot day, that bait goes pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. Well, live bait, I mean, that's your reality check. It's mother's milk. But you learn from it, or you can, you know, stick with it forever. You go through different stages of fishing. You know, first you want to just get a bite, and then you want to catch a limit, and then you want to catch a big one. And after that, you want to catch one how you want to catch one. And that's why, guys, sometimes, I'll find myself throwing a Whopper, Plopper one. I might catch 15 fish if I was throwing something else. I'm just throwing it because I like when they come up and eat it, and I like to watch it.
Yeah.
I've had a limited success, not like Uncle Catfish, but he describes it. I wish he was here. I feel so bad.
Yeah.
He loves that feeling when those bass come up and smash that lure.
They explode on it.
Yeah,
they really do. I caught. There's a local lake that we've been fishing at here, pretty regular since bass season opened in Pennsylvania. And last night actually was the first night I had success with the Whopper Plopper down there. But I've had it elsewhere.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. Like
how they boil up on it.
Like the biggest fish I've ever not caught was down in Back Bay in Virginia on a Whopper Plopper. And as soon as that thing hit the water, that fish was so big that it pushed the lure out of its mouth as it exploded on the top of the water around it. Like, Whopper Plopper hits and whoosh.
Explosion.
Yeah. That thing could have ate a basketball.
And you didn't catch it?
Of course not. Otherwise, I'd have told you exactly how big it was. And also because I'm terrible. But the fact that he went for it is good news for everybody.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. There's a bunch of us there getting back into fishing. I used to fish very heavily as a kid, and I got away from it, you know, for whatever reason. And this is my first year back. Just this podcast has inspired us to kind of really do all things outdoors, and this is not how we used to fish. Like, yeah. I was getting like all the guys that fish have all these crazy names, you know, including the Whopper Plopper. Yeah. You know, the funny names that, you know, Booyah, blah blah blah, whatever. I'm a worm and minnow guy from way back. And like you said, it's like mother's milk. It's nature's litmus test. It is what it is.
Give Will a box of night crawlers and
see ya.
A bobber. He's out.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry.
Well, you know, that's the beauty of fishing. It's completely organic. You can do it at whatever level or of intensity or involvement or whatever. Nobody tell you when to start or when to stop. Most of the other sports we have are pretty much synthetic, where somebody reached up their rear and pulled out a guy with a whistle, a striped shirt, a rule book, a clock, on a ball or a puck or something and said, okay, here's how many guys you need. I'll tell you when to start. It's not organic. And the thing about angling is that's what really makes it special, I think.
Exactly. Hey, Larry, how did Hunt for Big Fish come about for your TV show and you hosting? How did that all start?
I'd gotten kind of tired. Ian Fisherman was wanting to get into really put a lot of emphasis on the professional walleye trail.
You were writing for Ian Fisherman at the time, right, Larry?
At the time, I was actually in charge of magazine advertising, television advertising, radio advertising, camp fish, magazine circulation.
So that just
merchandising.
There's literally nothing in the fishing industry that you haven't done. Like I'm sorry. I'm still just.
Reeling it in.
Enamored. I'm still reeling it in.
I've been speechless the entire show, guys, and I'm normally
That's not the guy that's normally speechless.
Because right now I feel like I'm being
schooled.
Yeah, and I'm in church and I need to listen.
You should listen, bud. Sorry to interrupt you, Larry. So you were talking about Ian Fisherman there.
So anyway, I just didn't want to get involved in that side of it and decided to go do something else and had cooked up the idea. I'd been on, in all the shows the years prior to getting in charge of the revenue functions and so on. I'd been produced a television show for many years, and been on done a segment in each one of them, and started out writing for the magazine, I guess, as a consultant before I actually went to work for them. And but I just got, there was more to the world, and I only got so long to live, and I kind of looked through as many keyholes as I could in the freshwater side. So I wanted to go see what else was around. So I started the Hunt for Big Fish, and I was 87 countries, and 20-some years ago, I guess it was 92 first year.
Wow. You had you caught a few, or at least one record fish while you were hosting the show,
documented
right?
on the show.
Documented on the show, correct?
Well, I had a travel agent that went along for, 7, 8 years. He documented, he quit counting. I was in the 70s somewhere if I wanted to turn in world records. That's why I got the conservation award from IGFA. I'd released, 60, 70, 80 fish that would be world records, but you would have had to make them dead. And I chose not to. I don't think that the world would have wanted to see some middle-aged, balding geek on a ego trip around the world breaking world records. I think, for me, the world record thing, I'd use it as a barometer so you know what big is and what it isn't.
Wow.
That's what always amazed me by that show is that not only are you catching a species you're not familiar with, but you're catching a very large specimen of that species wherever you went.
That's the challenge, because, if you're going to go catch you got to find out where the big ones are. Otherwise, you haven't really found them. There's a lot of juveniles always, and you don't really know them if you can't. You need once you get you figure the deal out. You get repeatability, then you work your way kind of up the ladder. Is the way I do it. And I always want to have it so that I understand them. So I go back. I'll get better at it every time I visit because I'm gaining information, and I need to understand these creatures before I move on.
Do you just have a library of notes on your fishing trips? I mean, I can't.
I never take notes.
And can we get those?
I never have all my life. I don't take notes. I believe in almost completely internal versus external memory.
That's awesome.
Larry, your show was probably the first show that I watched when fishermen it wasn't all in the boat and catching fish. You were making lures. I'm going on this trip, and I can't find something big enough to catch the big fish out there. So I'm going to make this before we leave, and here's how I'm doing it.
I'm going to make the mold, pour the lead, make sure the hook is the right size because I want to catch that fish in that location.
Exactly, and I think it was the adventure, the prep, the 90% of the trip was before you even got on the plane.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
But did you do that from experience, from being there before, or from research?
If there was something I was just turning in that I was like really beamed in on, that means I've been there before. Research has never done me one lick of good. The only good that has ever come of it is when I go somewhere and see for myself. Otherwise, I have not had any good results from any kind of research I've attempted to do.
It's experience over research.
Experience is your library.
So
Thank you, Larry.
So we have to go back to Florida.
I'm going to make sure my wife listens to this episode, and I'm going to have to increase my experience knowledge.
Yeah. Well, it's like this. The world of angling is like a sphere with a billion keyholes in it. And everywhere you go, there's a man with his eye pressed up to a keyhole. He'll look in and, oh, it's plaid. And the next guy says, no, it looks like shag carpeting. Then the next guy says, no, it's ceiling tile. And they're all right. They are all catching fish, and they're all making a valid observation, but it is two-dimensional. And if you're going to get a three-dimensional view of what's in there, you need to look through every keyhole your lifetime allows. You can't be afraid that somebody else is going to get your keyhole or you can't find it again. Look through it, understand that, move on.
David Kyle found the pumpkin seed keyhole.
Yeah. Dude, I just hit the pumpkin seed, the tube. That's works at that lake.
The peanut butter and jelly tube works all right, too.
I didn't not me. We're working on our keyholes.
That's a really interesting way to describe it, don't you think, Phil?
Yeah,
it's another one of those mind-blowing moments right there.
Yeah.
I mean, life is like that.
I'm in the sweat lodge right now, guys. I'm really like it's just marinating.
It's working over the shaman.
Yeah, it's. I'm gonna have to listen to this show about 4 times over, Larry.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the lures, most recently that you've developed, Larry. I mean, we did talk about the Whopper Plopper. We have to at least spend
the Dahlberg diver.
We have the Dahlberg diver. We do have to spend another minute or two. I'd love to hear about your inspiration for the Whopper Plopper.
That's a great question.
Well, it's based on a lure called a mud puppy that I used to use when I was a little kid. That was made by a guy named J.J. Reinschmidt of the what was his name? J.J. Reinschmidt of the something or other bait company, though, in Mosinee, Wisconsin. C.C. Roberts Bait Company. And it had a tail that was maybe a fifth the size, and it was bent differently. And I learned that if you bend a little differently, it'd make a little bit better sound. And then after the tail started breaking, I wrote a letter to the guy, wanted to buy some tails. He never wrote back to me. And so I changed the tail a little bit and made it a little, kind of pulled it out and made it work better. And then like 40 years later, I had a buddy I was fishing with that type of a lure. I said, Josh, I got an idea how to make a way better one than that. And so I went and spent about 3-4 hours dicking around and made him one. And we went fishing the next couple of days, and we caught 3 muskies on it the first day and a couple the next day, and then
nice.
43 caught on it in the first month he was guiding.
Holy cow.
And then it got on TV. I showed people how to make them, and then people that couldn't make them wanted them, so we put it on the market. But if the guy had answered my letter and sent me replacement tails, I never would have probably made it.
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah.
So that was originally, you developed that as a muskie lure then, huh?
Yeah, we started catching great big largemouth and smallmouth on the 190 size. I mean, we get on each side, you get up in the nose of the boat, and you can cast 120 yards of the thing, and get one guy on each side. My buddy's a real good caster. We cover a weed flat like a pickle picker, and started catching big, really, really large fish. Very rarely would catch a bass, even smallmouth that would be 5 to 6 pounds.
No kidding.
And then we made the smaller sizes, and I think we have a 90, a 110, a 130, and a 190. So there's 4 sizes now.
Yeah.
We had a question about the names.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to go.
wanted to ask, and I just wanted to ask it instead. So,
Larry, and I know like the whole idea of these lures, and everybody wants something flashy and something cool, and I get
marketable.
Like there's one that's called perch. Well, guess what, Larry? I can tell you exactly what that looks like. It makes sense. The one that's called bone is bone colored. Where's monkey butt come from?
You'll have to ask the guys back in San Francisco.
Okay, so that's like a
They're
different.
Northern California guys, and out there I don't know where they get to. There's a lot of stuff that I don't understand that happens.
That's that West Coast stuff. Nobody understands it.
How much, in your experience, speaking of colors, and I've been dying to ask someone that knows, how much, especially with the topwater lure, does color
matter?
Does color matter? Like, is it? And I know, I mean, maybe this is an unfair question to ask the guy that's
he's
selling a bunch of lures. But
color's very important. You should get one of every.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can talk color into dust. Color underwater has certain characteristics just based on light transmission, color transmission. Laboratory clear water red turns black after 15 feet. It's not red anymore to anybody, anything. The stuff on the other end of the spectrum, the blues and so on, might go 180 feet, and they're still blue. But that doesn't help you in terms of preference.
Right.
There is no question that the fluorescent colors are visible from further underwater to literally any species of fish. But that doesn't mean they prefer them. However, in some cases where you have fish that are at the high end of the food chain, you throw out, it's not such a dumb idea to just throw out the match the hatch thing and just forget about it for a moment and instead think about natural selection. That one of the roles of a predator is to get rid of things that don't belong. So you've got something that's some real whacked out color that still exhibits behavioral traits of things he's successfully sampled. In other words, things that are alive. There's a chance that he might prefer that or select that over a bait that is more natural and so on in the environment. When catfish are born, if you go to a catfish farm, you'll see a whole bunch of albinos when they're initially born. You almost never see a white catfish that's any bigger than a little tiny thing because they get selected out.
Wow.
As humans, like that.
Yeah, don't think like a human. You can't do that.
That doesn't happen for us at all. Like, you can't select out anything legally.
Not anymore.
No.
You can't even tease it out on them on the playground.
We do just the opposite, as a matter of fact. We put our money on three-legged horses, and we don't put anything on Seabiscuit. We handicap him, but that's another discussion.
Now my mind's blown. Uncle Catfish and I had a conversation just literally a couple days ago where he would love to have a baby Whopper Plopper, a baby catfish Whopper Plopper, maybe have a little whiskers on it or something like that. His mind is probably closer to yours than I even realize.
Yeah.
Like you just said, you can't think like we think.
The predator wants the weak. They want an easier meal. So, I mean, it all makes sense when you start thinking of it that way.
It wouldn't mean that it's easier. It's just more visible. So it's just simply
it's
not
just
as
different.
camouflaged and it stands out. You could be on a school of bass and be catching them on X. Let's say we're using a purple fladoo. And there's a school of fish, in a place. We're parked. And boom, boom, making the same bing, 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 bing. We catch 3-4 fish in 6 casts. And then the next 4 casts don't catch anything. Then we put on a chartreuse fladoo. Bing! First cast, 1 bites. And that happens so often. And then you switch back to the original, maybe don't get another bite for several other casts. You go 180 on the spectrum, and very often you get another fish or 2 afterwards out of the same group of fish. Very, very common. Very, 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 very common. Why? I don't know.
Yet it happens. So, and
it happens really a lot.
Yeah.
It happens in enough that it's something that is a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Before you leave, take the same thing. Just go 180 in color. If you're going black, go super bright or white or something.
Yeah. That's my big takeaway tonight is you don't have to know why. You just have to know there's a pretty good scientific chance and try it.
Yeah.
Mike?
Well, you break it down. Fish that eat each other, fish that eat bugs. What's the situation here in most likelihood? And then you got a toolbox that you develop over years of, man, I remember this worked here, or this worked there. I watched this happen when they were doing this or that. And sometimes you can correlate it right down to the nut, water temperature, time of year. I've got things figured out where with a fly rod muskie, I make 5 casts a day, catch 5 fish. It's just wait for these conditions. It's 100% guaranteed it's going to go happen. But all this stuff falls together sometimes. And you're able to make correlations at other times not. Fish doesn't care what it's caught on.
Yeah.
That right there was another mind-blowing statement. That's awesome.
Have you ever fished?
I'm getting a shirt that says that. You don't mind, do you, Larry?
Fish doesn't care what it's caught on.
I've got 7 immutable laws of angling. That's one of them.
Oh.
Have you ever fished in Pennsylvania, Larry?
I don't think I have. I fished out in Virginia not too long ago. We spent a couple trips out there, but I don't think I fished in Pennsylvania. I haven't spent a lot of time on the East Coast. It was a little bit too crowded for my boots.
It is.
Us too.
I agree.
Yeah, we're here.
Have you ever written? And I'm embarrassed for not knowing this, but have you ever authored any books?
I co-authored a book many years ago called Artificial Lures with Dick Sternberg and Parker Bauer for the Hunting Fishing Library.
Okay.
And I'm in the middle of writing one right now.
Excellent.
It's sort of anecdotal, and so that's kind of,
How soon do you expect that to be available?
Lefty Cray asked me that a couple weeks ago.
He did.
And I said, well, I don't know when it's done.
Wow. Well, my mind's blown. Like, this is
There's a lot.
there's a lot. We covered.
We didn't expect this.
Yeah, in an hour. I mean, we have notes and prep work, and we maybe hit on 25% of it.
I didn't even get to ask Larry about how Christmas tree tinsel turned into Flashaboo.
We need to somehow record your inner monologue, Larry, because holy cow.
Release your inner monologue on a podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think unfortunately, we're just about out of time. Like I said, we barely covered.
We didn't even scratch the surface of Larry Dahlberg.
Well, Larry, when you release your book, we have to have you back on the show.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, you can just blow our minds again. We'll be questioning if we even want to pick up a fishing rod because we feel our lack of knowledge.
I'm inadequate.
Yeah, I'm completely inadequate now.
Don't be silly.
Well, it's a for me anyways, I feel I know nothing about fishing, but yet I want to go out tomorrow and try everything we just talked about.
Absolutely.
So you've made me you broke me down, but you built me back up all in 60 minutes. Yeah. So,
well, I'll leave you with this. Here's a puzzle for you. If in angling, it's always a good idea to sort of reverse your premise and look at things sort of inside out. You invaginate the concept. So, if the early bird catches the worm, what else is likely?
Oh, he's going to get 2 more.
I like it.
The early worm gets eaten. So if you're going to go tomorrow, I would get up quite early.
Perfect.
We'll be there.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking time for us, Larry. And if people want to learn more about you, learn more. I know we didn't even touch makelures.com. We didn't get anywhere into the different services, products that you offer, YouTube videos, just the how-to stuff. There's so much we didn't get. It's endless. What's the best way people can learn more?
My real passion, I love sharing information on how to make lures. And there's a lot of guys I know out your way, especially the striper guys. And the best way to deal with that is we have a website called makelure.com, and I have a website called huntforbigfish.com. On huntforbigfish.com, there's a little thing up in the corner somewhere that says Ask Larry. And it'll take you to a forum where I answer various kinds of questions. And the lure making category is one of the questions, and fresh saltwater general questions and stuff. So that's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
And you do answer all of those questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to clarify that, like when somebody clicks on the
I don't
link
have a staff.
to ask Larry, they're asking Larry.
I don't have employees or a staff or anything.
But
I just try to keep
they
up
get
with that.
answered. No matter how big or small. That you do answer them. So. This has been incredible. So we really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah,
You guys behave yourselves the rest of the week, all right?
No guarantees there, Larry.
We won't get caught, Larry.
You tell Uncle Catfish that I missed him.
Certainly will. Thanks for filling in for him.
Well, just so he doesn't make a habit of it. I can't be home every Thursday. There's not much that much summer.
You got fishing to do, don't you?
Appreciate you stepping up.
Yeah, we hope you can join us again when your book's released. We're excited to.
All right, it'd be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Larry.
Dahlberg.
Thanks.
See you guys. Good night.
All right, good night. Bye-bye. Guys, I tell you what, I've so much got into my head. I'm practically speechless right now.
Which is rare for you.
Yeah, very rare.
I told Larry, you're not the guy who runs out of words.
Ever.
Well, how can you when he's using 25-cent words left and right, and he's bringing science into this, and that is like one of the two things I learned from him. Science is one part of fishing, and then the other part is, like he said, is a complete 180 from science, and that is just being organic and going with the flow.
Just Forrest Gump it.
Just Gump
Forrest Gump it.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what we always say.
If you have to jump high,
Because you told me
to, Joe Sergeant.
whatever you need to do, you do it.
So Stevie sees you catch one, on a
He usually slides in and
pumpkin
just
seed, Cinco, whatever.
Yeah, and Will walks over and goes, I must have had me about 13 Dr. Peppers.
Stevie,
and then Stevie jumps into my fishing hole.
yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, well, once you walk away to retie, then it's open.
It's move your feet.
Yeah,
lose your
it's
seat.
move your feet, lose your seat. That's
I've learned that.
yeah. But if you
It's
fish
like-
with me,
it's like
you don't
Darwinism fishing.
Don't catch a fish because I'm pushing you out of the way, or I'm.
You know how
getting
you
your
could
spot.
survive longer on the bank of the lake?
How's
Fishing?
that? Bud?
Tell us.
How's that?
Use more than 4 pounds.
It's a heartbreaker, guys.
Yeah, if you're constantly retying on hooks and all that stuff.
Yeah,
they're
just
step,
up the
step
pound.
right in, buddy.
Yeah,
Hey Ryan,
Yeah, bud.
it's been a while since we all got together behind these microphones. Right?
It's true. Yeah.
Last
seems like it, right?
A lot of stuff's gone down.
Yeah, a lot of stuff's going
been
down.
crazy.
In particular, I saw.
What did I tell you about my peacock?
Did you get a peacock?
I got a huge
No
peacock.
way.
Not a boy.
6 pounds.
Wow.
Is that the one on the
congrats, bud.
highway you were talking about?
I can't tell you my spot.
Easy.
That's one of those gutter fish, right? You guys were fishing in the rain gutters, or
No,
yeah.
nope. What?
I've seen some pictures.
What?
But anyway.
Oh my god, guys!
Oh my God, guys! Will just caught a monster.
He was. I love Monster Mike.
Monster Mike
was
is
great.
amazing. I can't wait to meet him.
Oh,
Well,
you
but
guys
I'm
will.
sure. I know you. I'm sorry I cut you off because my
that's
week
all right.
was so
Yeah.
epic.
It's hard not.
No, you guys can go have a great time, like fishing and I don't know, Florida, great fisheries, things like that.
Say it
But you know
again.
what?
Say it again.
Me and David Kyle, we destroyed
We did.
Gifford Pinchas State Park.
Yeah, you made that your B.
We did.
One thing in
Oh, we did.
particular. I saw
One thing,
one thing in particular. One fish.
or David Kyle's 4 monster bass things.
I wouldn't say monster.
Well,
but
I didn't get any
wait,
video.
they weren't there, so
Yeah.
I didn't get any video of David Kyle's monster bass.
That's my fault. Actually.
Okay,
Yeah, I
well
didn't see
then,
any of it.
shame on you,
Yes, I feel that way.
Harp, Madeira. But anyways,
Our
So we-
Dizzle.
our Dizzle. I'm sorry. Yeah. No
It's been
more
officially
carp.
named
Our
Our
Dizzle.
Dizzle.
Shame on you, our Dizzle.
We're just throwing stuff against the wall, see what sticks. I like it. Go ahead. You go on.
So we're down in Florida, Miami area, fishing for peacock
all the
bass.
sun
last
and the
week.
babes,
Sun,
and
Tarpon,
yeah, it was incredible.
Drew.
Incredible. Drew,
just destroying it.
That guy should be a full-time guide. So we're down there just living it up.
I'm probably going to hug him when I see him, and I've never.
Was it hot down there?
It was hot.
It was really hot.
Because I wouldn't have known it.
It was hot.
I heard it was so hot, catfish's short britches were melting off of them.
And some they almost were.
They were disintegrating.
In front of your eyes.
In the nether.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know how.
I think he sewed
perspective.
I think he tailored a portion of it with fishing braid.
That's how he does. Yeah. He said braid's the best thing to sew with.
Hey,
so
I think I
can't disagree with that. That's
he let some out. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of them will.
Well, when you're tailoring your own stuff, sometimes you have to let things out.
Yeah, some people take it in.
Yeah.
He had to leave some out.
Yeah, and sometimes it's unintentional. But so we're down there fishing, and we get this video, and we stopped what we were doing.
Really?
And
because you were about to ruin.
Well,
A1A Beachfront Avenue.
So
I'm just doing different 90s raps.
That's a good one, though. We were on A1A. Did we tell you guys that?
Yeah.
When we fished on Pompano Beach? Yeah.
How many pompanos did you catch on
I caught
Pompano?
one less than one pompano.
What's your streak on pompanos this season?
I think I caught 2 or 3.
Okay.
Some really small ones, and that was
juvenile pompano.
Yeah,
I think your son's ahead of you.
Juvie
though,
pompanos.
Right?
Jake, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
More than likely. It wouldn't surprise me.
That's good. You're passing on knowledge.
They were really small, too.
He caught one more than one of Dad's.
Did you see Stevie's new YouTube channel?
Yeah, did you see it?
In search of juvenile fish.
It's getting big. You know, there's like
he's got 3 subscribers.
At least 3 since last week.
Hold me closer, tiny fisherman.
Hold me
over here, bud. So we talk about derail.
Yeah, so you went fishing while we were gone.
Gifford Pinchot State Park.
I was at Gifford
We wanted
Pinchot.
our own fun while you guys were in the fun and sun.
In
so
Miami,
did you guys do a podcast?
Having a good time.
We didn't have the portable equipment, so they took that.
Oh, we took that.
Yeah. So
down to
we
Florida.
did 2 podcasts.
You guys unplugged us.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Though.
We went MTV unplugged on that place.
Really unplugged.
Yeah.
I honestly cannot wait any longer.
So here's the deal.
I'm dying.
I'm fishing.
Yeah.
In Gifford Pinchot State Park, we are fishing for largemouth bass, or we'll take some crappie, we'll take some perch, we'll take whatever's biting.
Whatever, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I'm doing my standard thing. I'm throwing soft plastics, I'm casting at the bank, and I'm working them back. I'm maybe 20, 30 yards off the bank, and I'm casting up into this little weed bed, some grasses sticking up out of the surface. It's maybe 6, 8 inches of water. I cast little 3-inch soft plastic paddle tail type thing, cast it up into the weeds. I start pulling it out, and just boom, boom. I felt there was a bite. I go to set the hook, nothing's there. Which is always disappointing.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, all right.
Heartbreaker.
Lower the tip back down. I start reeling it in. All of a sudden, there's one more, like, pretty substantial thump. And as I go to set the hook, it's too late.
No.
He's already pulling me into the middle of the lake.
No.
Some's got a hold. Some took a hold to me. It took a hold to me. And it pulled me back in the lake.
He was tight.
Oh, yeah.
You got tight.
I got tight, son.
You got tight.
Oh, dog. Or
Our dizzle.
Our dizzle was tizite. Anyway, I hooked into something. I knew it wasn't a bass. I mean, almost immediately, but I didn't know what I had on the end. It could have been a carp. I heard there was a guy on this podcast named Carp at one point. I don't know. I don't know what I was into, but it's pulling me into the middle of the lake. I yelled down 300-400 yards at that point, probably.
Easily, yeah.
And I yelled down to David Kyle. I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I got something on the line. And I could kind of keep an eye on him out of the corner of my eye. He's like, oh, I should probably stop fishing, I guess, and I'll go take a picture of him or something.
I didn't know if you needed help.
You know, like maybe I'll get up there before he's done taking his selfies, and he's going to release the fish. Maybe I'll get there before that's done. I mean, he's a couple yards away. He's got a trolling motor. Well, it turns out Dave was able to bring in his line, turn the boat on the trolling motor, make it 400 or 500 yards up the lake, and get there for the last 15 minutes of the fight.
Yeah, definitely.
15 minutes.
Buddy, my arms were tired.
It was moving him around.
And he kept saying, what is it? What is it? And I'm like, I don't know. It hasn't surfaced yet.
It was deep, and it was just pulling him around.
Yeah. On a 10-foot Moken, right?
Right.
Just a big old wide kayak. This thing is pulling me around the lake like I was water skiing.
What was going through your mind, though? Like, what did you think it was?
Well, I was hoping it was a fish, buddy.
Well, yeah. Not a merman or something.
I was like, if it's a merman.
Merman, Dad.
No, and
that would have sucked.
When Dave got up there,
When I have it, I just cut the line, and I'm like, get
Get out of there, merman.
before somebody sees us together.
it's going to get awkward.
When Dave got up there with the John boat, and he was actually starting to snap a couple pictures, he goes, what is that? What is that? And I think I said at that point, I'm like, it's got to be a catfish. Like, there's no other explanation for what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And so I'm using 6.5-foot medium action rod, which is substantial for where we were at. I got 10-pound braid with, I forget what the knot's called, the
FG knot.
FG knot, and I'm using 10-pound fluoro on the end of that. And I was using a 3-inch soft plastic paddle tail that I was throwing to the bank and reeling back. I ended up catching, it had to be all but 20 pound.
Anyhow.
Channel cat.
It was big.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know how big it was, but it's the largest channel cat I've seen in recent
we saw
years.
the pictures, and I said, "Is that a flathead?" Because it just was.
It was
that big.
Yeah.
It was that wide.
Like,
and that
I've
long.
never seen a channel cat that.
Yeah.
I did.
I was kind of hoping it was. I was kind of hoping it was a flathead, and I didn't. Again, I've said this a couple of times to some of the guys. I'm going to put the video out, I guess,
you have
on
to
social
now.
media. But like, I was talking to myself because I thought Dave was taking pictures.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was filming me. So I'm like doing my own little internal commentary out loud so he can hear me, just to enjoy himself while he's taking pictures.
Sure.
I bought a new kayak fishing net.
It's a good thing.
That day. Like, literally that day I bought it. And I was taking it out with me. And
do you still have a kayak fishing net?
Actually, I do.
Oh, okay.
It didn't break it.
Oh,
okay. But as I'm lifting this thing out of the
rainbowed
water,
it.
I got it. Did it
really?
It put a hurting on it. The nose is sticking out of one end, the tail's out the other. This thing's filled up my net, and as I lifted out of the water, it buckled it. And I'm like, this fish is going to break my new net. And then I get it on the boat, and I'm working, like, trying to get the hook out of the mouth. And at one point, I actually said to myself, turns out to be out loud, I'm referring to the episode with Hannah Barron, where she's talking about noodling and all this stuff. I'm holding a 20-inch channel cat. Now, this is not a flathead or 40-inch, 40-pound,
Did
whatever.
you measure it?
It was over 20 inches.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm at 20
It was probably
pounds.
20 pounds. It was closer to 30 inches, I think.
I was thinking pounds. 20 pounds, 40 pounds.
It laid well across his lap.
Oh, yeah.
That was the
It was
top
length of my
1% fish in that lake.
Oh, definitely.
I'm holding this thing up, and I got the hook out of its mouth, and I remember actually saying to myself, which turned out to be out loud, why some little girl would choose to put her hand in the mouth of one of these things on purpose.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, these things were mean. It drew blood.
Did it?
Yeah.
You didn't have a
And
Kevlar sleeve on?
it didn't even bite down that hard. But I wasn't letting go
The
until
best
it
way
did
you
get a
can
hold of me.
describe it without seeing it for the people that are listening to a radio show was it like you had to look at it, and it looked from like whatever at first glance like a baby blue cat. Because it had this like round, bulbous kind of head, and I knew it was a channel cat, but like I couldn't believe the size. It threw me off. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't have been
Its belly.
Yeah.
everything.
And it was interesting to see him move with that on his lap in a kayak it was. I mean, I'm glad his phone was in a case because he could have went over at any second. But
I'm stable, buddy.
you were safe. But it was big for a kayak. I mean, you had no room to go anywhere with the fish or yourself.
So are you consider yourself like a cat fisherman now,
I'm
buddy?
like cousin catfish.
Cousin.
Yeah. Chanel.
Maybe one day there'll be little catfish fry that will look at me and be like, "That's Uncle Catfish," and I'll be like, "Actually,
Let me correct you. I
This is-
caught one catfish.
This is my
2016.
this is my Uncle Catfish. I'm just your cousin."
2007. What's the year?
17.
17.
Yeah, all year.
August of 2017.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Nice
It-
job.
It paled in comparison to the experience you guys had in Florida.
No.
But I was just glad David Kyle was able to make it up and film that so that we could at least produce something that was
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, you guys go have fun fishing in your Mecca fishery of all fisheries. We're up here, like, keeping PA sexy.
We didn't catch anything 30
True.
pounds, so, you know,
I don't think I did either. It was about 20.
whatever.
But you got to see catfish, handfish, sharks live, though.
Nerf
There was
sharks.
just one thing after.
Nerf sharks.
yeah,
They barely count. What? It was still a shark.
Yeah. Bring
Take
a
it
doctor
easy.
shark, and then we'll have something to talk about.
what kind of day did you have down there, or night, evening did you have? But I heard
I
I'm
had
hearing
my
some
typical pincho night where I fish a tube,
Monster.
the monster tube bait, green pumpkin seed tube, and I caught 4 bass.
rumors. Yeah,
The last 3 times I've been there, 4 bass on the green pumpkin seed tube.
I
So
wonder what Larry would say about that.
Larry would probably catch 4 bass, reverse the color 180.
Flip it inside out.
Yeah.
And then catch 8 more.
Yeah. So
What would be the inverse color of green pumpkin seed?
I'm going to go with a white.
White.
I don't think I need my color wheel, but
Yeah.
I don't have that. so-
Something bright.
something bright.
I'm seeing yellow, yeah.
Chartreuse.
I think it's seed pumpkin green.
Seed pumpkin.
Green.
And I think I need to fish deeper still. Go deeper and go slower after listening to Larry.
It's what he said.
It's-
Yeah, slow and small.
Yeah.
Every 4 minutes, just
Yeah,
every time
I
we
was
give it a
just
little
going to
twitch.
say that.
just take your Senko and
Give
just
it a
tap the
little
line a
twitch.
little bit,
We heard that. We heard
and
that.
then set the hook.
So you've been going a while there, Uncle Buck.
Been across the country and back a couple
Anyhow.
times, or halfway.
Yeah. You were back home, right?
Yeah, back to Missouri.
How's
Yeah.
that?
It was a good, quick trip,
That's good.
but
Just visiting family.
yeah, golf tournament.
Golf tournament.
I haven't golfed
you
in
win?
2 years.
Really?
No,
How'd you
no.
do?
It was the Phil Buckman Open.
The Phil Buckman Invitational.
What's your handicap, bud?
Oh,
Just the way you walk?
Beer. Beer was my handicap.
But no, you're looking forward to October, it looks like, on some of those pictures you showed us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody said, hey, we need to start thinking about looking forward instead of being caught up in the present with this fishing stuff. And I decided to put the trail cam out and
Yep.
start down that line. What do we have? What,
It
about
won't
a
be
month?
long, right? Yeah.
About a month.
Oh, I got to get shooting.
Yeah.
By the
You
time,
guys all need to get
yeah.
shooting.
But for
By the time we release this, I think it's. Are they taking third round unsold?
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, doe tags. If you're in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
you gotta get them.
it's going to
doe
be here.
applications. Unless you're hunting with Kyle down in Philly. I don't know if you're gonna get one.
Did you guys get your first rounds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you had to send in for your doe tags already.
I got first and second rounds already.
I didn't get my second round yet.
But I checked my cams for the first time.
Yeah.
What did you see?
I saw something I've never seen before in this spot. And that's
yeah?
Chupacabra.
Buck on film. And I'm not talking about me.
Buck
And a
on
few.
film.
I'm not talking about me doing a special shoot for Mrs. Buckman either.
Hey.
You are out of control tonight.
Yeah, you're there for him, bud.
2 tines and a twist.
And back again.
And a drop time.
And a non-typical.
So you saw a couple bucks, huh?
More than a couple, multiple buck.
Attaboy.
Anything that really caught your eye? Anything you're going to be?
There's a couple of them out there that their racks are definitely wider than their ears, and I'm pretty excited.
Just for reference, anybody that's listening to this is officially the first week of August, but these pictures were back late July.
Late July.
They still got some growing time, buddy. You
growing times.
Yes.
Growing time in growing times.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
And
that's good news.
I have been religiously getting the bow out every night.
Have you?
Yeah. It's on.
Is this the
after
R2
last year? After
mission
last
craze?
year, after last year, it's
after
on.
the lows. You're ready for the highs.
I'm ready for the highs.
You're going to get one this
Get
year.
yourself.
I like it.
I can't wait, guys. I cannot wait.
All right.
So I caught a peacock bass, but
I heard about that.
Maybe we can.
Maybe we can recap that.
Maybe there's a podcast about that.
Yeah.
Is there?
Those things were wearing helmets.
It looked like it didn't.
I don't catch fish wearing
the
helmets.
males.
You know that
Those are the males, right?
that hump is actually it's soft.
Fleshy.
That's what Will was saying, and that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it is. It's really it's like feels like
Weird.
a tumor or something.
For-
I don't know.
It's not the
Whatever.
tumor.
It's like a
It's
flat,
for
fat
attracting
hump.
chicks
It's like the dorsal fin
effect.
thing. Yeah, getting chick bass.
It's like a
Anyways,
chick bump.
it's a chick bump. All right,
So, or, no.
Let's kick this pig.
it's
Do it.
time.
do
It's
it.
time. How can they find us, Ryan?
Well, you can check us out at www.rutandriverpursuits.com. Make sure you go on that website and check out all of the recent pics that have been put up. I think there might even be a whole Miami section.
Word on
put
the
up
street
for-
is that's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
But also make sure you check out the pick of the week. That thing has been fired up. Everybody who's using Instagram, get on Instagram. Anything related to the outdoors, take those pictures, make them look pretty, and hashtag it 2D Taxidermy. And you're going to be considered for the R2 Pick of the Week. That'll show up right on our homepage. Check out the bios. Catfish put together crazy,
Do you know-
crazy, amazing bios.
He didn't do that with any of our
No,
input.
never
he
asked for
just
anything.
Knew.
I
He
just
knows
read my
us.
bio tonight.
Yeah.
And I don't cry. There's a little tear to my eye. Yeah.
That catfish.
I got a
It's
little
good he
foggy
wasn't
eyed.
here tonight. I was going to hug him.
Yeah,
It was going to get weird.
that would have been weird.
So, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, he's real lucky.
get on rutandriverpursuits.com. Check everything out. And while you're there, you can check out all of the episodes on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Castbox. Oh, that's the one. Everybody loves that one.
Get you some.
Instagram,
Twitter
Twitter at R2 Pursuits
and Facebook at Rut and River Pursuits.
Podcast.
And don't forget to check us all out individually, too, as well, and follow us as individuals.
Get your Whopper Plopper. Get out there. Throw it out.
Amen.
And join us.
Get you some.
Yeah, start whipping them. All right.
Later.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Rut and River Pursuits podcast. Follow the R2 Pro staff by searching Rut and River Pursuits on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until the next episode, we need to see you in the outdoors.